Whether it be a wet, stormy day, or a dark winter's evening, playing a game that makes us feel all warm and relaxed is almost unmatched. Everything from the general warm vibe of the game, to their laid-back pacing and gameplay, to even the characters' personalities can really help to create this cozy feeling. The general definition of cozy is that feeling of comfort, relaxation, and warmth. So when applying this to a game, you'll usually get things like visual novels, puzzlers, and life simulation RPGs. And while many games can pretty easily mold themselves into this idea of what a cozy game is, there are some games that really do just excel at it. Oftentimes, this will also land them on the spot on virtually any article or video talking about what the go-to cozy games are, while also becoming timeless to all of the people that find genuine comfort in playing them. So, what exactly are the factors at play here that can make one game really stand out from the rest at evoking these sort of feelings from us? What gives a game that cozy feeling? One of the main things that you want to avoid when trying to relax and get comfy is stress. Stress is something that is pretty common in gaming, whether we realise it at the time or not. It could come from something like there being high stakes or a sense of danger, making the experience really intense. And that's fantastic for a lot of games, but it really doesn't make for a cozy experience. The game should generally allow for the player to make mistakes here and there without it really mattering. In a short hike, your main goal is to make your way up the trail to get to the top of a mountain. If you happen to fall or go the wrong way, it's not really an issue. You can just make your way back to where you were before and try again. The game also has a few different minigame style activities scattered around the map, such as Beach Stick Ball, a game where you have to hit the beach ball with a stick, stay with me here, and see how long a streak you can manage. There is a real reason to get to a certain number in this game, because you can earn yourself a golden feather, which are pretty important to the overall game. But if you end up failing, there really isn't anything to lose. Well, other than your pride, I suppose. You can just try again to your heart's content. An absence of danger in these games also really helps to give that safe and relaxed feeling. And this is because having a looming sense of threat will only add to the player's anxiety, which completely goes against what a cozy game is meant to be doing. A great example of this is with Animal Crossing New Horizons. There is very little in this game that gives any sense of danger whatsoever, other than maybe things like wasp nests, which are pretty avoidable. The majority of the game will be renovating your island, collecting fossils, bugs and fish for the museum, and saving up your bells. It's a great game to pick up and play whenever you're in a cozy mood, which for me was apparently 3 years ago. I am so sorry. Without having this fear of messing up and ruining all of your progress, these games are able to remove almost all of the stress of doing everything right, and just letting the player play the game however they choose to. Some games will have optional danger, which allows them to be pretty versatile in terms of gameplay. Stardew Valley's danger comes from within the mines, where you might meet a variety of enemies. This keeps the dangerous elements pretty tightly bound to one specific area, so that you can entirely ignore it if you prefer to. The trade-off being that you'll struggle to get a lot of the different ores and materials. Thankfully, these mines are never too intense, and you have a load of health to play with. Minecraft's danger is a little bit different though. The game gives you different options while creating a world. You can either turn mobs off completely, or set the game to easy, normal, or hard mode. These difficulties will affect how tough the enemies are, and how harsh the hunger mechanic is. Playing the game on hard mode definitely takes a lot of the coziness out of the game, because for 80% of the time, you'll be stressing over keeping your hunger bar up, and generally trying to survive the hordes of monsters. But when the game is set to peaceful mode, suddenly all of the stresses are taken out of the game, and you can focus on building, gathering resources, and exploring, which suddenly makes the game so much more laid back and cozy to play. When playing a cozy game, we are looking for that relaxed, stress-free feeling, rather than an intense, and often more challenging experience, so the absence of danger is pretty crucial. The atmosphere of a game can really change how the game feels to play, and this can be done in a few different ways. The first of which is with the art style and general visuals of the game. Old Man's Journey is a puzzle game where you need to manipulate the foreground and backgrounds so that you can travel through the stages. Other than the art style being absolutely beautiful to look at, it does a fantastic job at letting you know which hills you can move around. There isn't much ambiguity, and you don't need to strain your eyes at all to figure out what is on the screen. Untitled Goose Game and Fishy are two other games that really benefit from this simplistic art style where everything is made from block colours. With too much happening on the screen all at once, a game can lose any sense of coziness, and so keeping things visually simple really helps. Untitled Goose Game has you playing as a goose, but not just any old goose, a horrible goose, whose life mission is to go through a list of ways to ruin everybody's day. Similarly to Animal Crossing and A Short Hike, there isn't much of a penalty for messing up because you can try over and over again until you get to experiment with the world around you to figure out what works best. This is majorly helped by the fact that everything around you is incredibly easy to make sense of due to the simplistic art style. Every object is very clearly what it is supposed to be. An apple is an apple, a carrot is a carrot, and this rake is obviously a boat. But on top of that, nothing gets lost in the scenery because of those block colours, which comes in handy when you're trying to find a bunch of little items for a picnic. Fishy is a game where you play as a fish and need to eat other fish to grow in size, and while its art style doesn't help quite as much as Goose Games does, too much detail would honestly take away from this game's charm and ultimately would start to detract from its cozy vibe. Games like Stardew Valley and Coffee Talk go with a different approach visually, as they have a pixelated art style. However, both of these games have at least some areas that actively look to create this cozy atmosphere. Coffee Talk's entire game is set within a coffee shop, and so, even with some more intense storylines, the entire game constantly has a cozy feel to it. Everything from the shelves on the exposed brick wall to the wet and rainy world outside the window make the game feel incredibly comfy and give a relaxed feel to it all. Stardew Valley's aesthetics will differ from area to area and even from day to day depending on the weather, but on the whole everything keeps a pretty cozy feeling to it, and some areas absolutely knock it out of the park, like the Stardrop Saloon, Pierre's, and even your own home. Another fantastic way Stardew Valley channels that cozy feeling incredibly is with its use of colours. There are lots of nice warm colours wherever you go, along with the entire game being bright and sunny. Nothing feels dull or washed out at all, but importantly, this means that no object whatsoever is straining to look at. Atmosphere can also be heavily influenced by the audio of a game, for example any sound effects, music, or general ambience. All of the games we've talked about take advantage of music to help create that cozy feeling, with one standout example being Coffee Talk, which has this great lo-fi style soundtrack to it, which by now is pretty famous for studying and relaxation. Some games like Minecraft and Stardew Valley will have some extremely iconic soundtracks which don't actually play at all times. Minecraft's music will fade in and out at times to break up any silence, and does an amazing job at preventing the game from feeling desolate or eerie. And on top of that, the sound effects in the game aren't too loud, and definitely aren't hard to listen to, which ultimately complements the cozy elements of gameplay that the game offers. Stardew Valley's soundtrack will start the day with one of the handfuls of songs for each season, but once they run their course, you will find yourself listening to the general ambience of the valley. In places like your farm, that can be the sounds of birds chirping, and on the beach, you can hear the relaxing sound of the ocean rolling back and forth. These sounds can really ease you into that cozy mindset on their own. You'll start the day with a great track, and we'll have a few different chill songs playing in places like Pierre's or the saloon, but when you're ending your day and getting some of the final tasks done, you get to just listen to the sounds of nature. General world building can really help create the cozy atmosphere in a game. A game could initially feel really cozy, with great audio, gameplay and visuals, but once you find one dead body, it's all over. A Short Hike's world is absolutely filled with different characters and things to find, and every single one of them is wholesome and fun. Well, almost all of them, but this guy's fine, I guess. It was so fun throughout trying to find all the different secrets that this game had to offer, because each of them just sort of added a bit of cozy charm to the rest of the game. At one point you'll be set on a mission to collect shells for somebody, along the way you'll find another character who you can trade a shovel with, if you found one by that point, and then shortly after you might bump into this person, who will sell you a nice hat. It's interactions like these that can really just bring the whole game together into such a warm experience. The characters could have been cold or uninterested, or have this layer of depth that you need to work past, but instead they opted for a really friendly and wholesome experience that can be so nice to play through at times. Little Witch in the Woods is a game where you play as a little witch in the woods. The name really did hit the nail on the head there, huh? Exploring the world is something you need to do in order to play through the game's story, and as you play you'll quickly get to see how the world around you is filled with this sense of magic and nature, which really helps give you an understanding of the cozy world around you. But inside your house is another story entirely. Here we have everything from witchy tools, to your brewing pot, to your beautifully lit bedroom. Almost everywhere you go in this game has a cozy vibe to it. A game's pacing can really help set the general tone for a game. A game that needs to be played quickly with a lot of fast actions flies right in the face of coziness. But a game that lets you set your own pace is a game that wants you to be able to stop and smell the flowers. A game that wants you to get cozy. Polybridge is a puzzle game where you need to construct a bridge that can both hold its own weight and whatever is also driving on it. There is absolutely no rush to get things right, and you can either make a makeshift bridge that just about works and get onto the next level, or you can spend some time making a bridge that looks nice and functions as perfectly as possible. In addition to this, you can also decide to keep retrying levels and see how low you can keep the budget. Or if you really wanted to, you can try and come up with some out-of-the-box designs for a bit of extra fun. Another puzzle game that employs these same principles is Old Man's Journey. This game encourages you to take your time as you travel through the landscapes and often needs you to take each puzzle bit by bit. This is only amplified by the fact that, well, you're playing as an old man and he is slow as balls. Whether you like it or not, you can't really speed through this one all that much. Many games will have primary goals and things that it wants you to do, without forcing you to do them in one particular order. A short hike ultimately wants to get you from your aunt's cabin all the way to the top of the trail. But once you've left that starting point, it's pretty much up to you how fast you want to take it. If you really wanted to, you could definitely figure out a path to get enough golden feathers required to beat the game, and then get to the top in the most efficient way possible. Or you could immediately go play some good old beach stick ball. God, I love beach stick ball. When I first played the game, something possessed me to just go the opposite direction, and by the time I realised that it was just one big open world, and didn't have a border to stop me from wandering off, I was completely lost. But this is just a testament to how the game lets you take things at your own pace. You can decide to just wander around and explore the little island if that's what your heart desires. There is no time pressure or even any real reason to get to the end of the game right away. Another similar game is Animal Crossing. There are some fundamentals of the game, such as upgrading your house or filling out the museum, but ultimately, the game just sort of lets you do whatever. For a lot of players, most of the fun comes from modding your island into whatever you find best, and this is generally done by building structures, landscaping, and finding different items. For me, one of my favourite things about these types of games comes from trying to fill out the museum, and usually, this results in me neglecting coming up with any sort of cool theme for my island, and well, I just tend to have a lot of shit scattered around that I think is cool. Man, look at this, it's just like the real Mario. Stardew Valley might be one of the best examples when it comes to a game letting you decide your own pace, and it's probably one of its biggest features that gives it that cozy feeling. At no point in the game are you persuaded to do one thing any more than anything else. Whatever you do is entirely up to you, and how fast you want to do it doesn't really matter. Some players might want to focus entirely on farming and trying to invest their earnings into even more seeds, whereas some players won't care about that much and instead want to spend all day every day down in the mines. Some players even prefer the idea of treating the game as more of a role-playing life simulator game, where you try and become friends with everybody in town and maybe foraging for a few things to sell. Personally, I like to do a bit of everything when I play this game, keeping a farm going, doing some mining every few days, and spending time with the other villagers while immersed in this cozy world. A big bonus for cozy games is having a great story that you can really get into. Now, stories aren't something that a game needs to have to be cozy. A game like Polybridge works great because you just have to work your way through the levels without needing anything to tell you why you were doing it. And some games like Minecraft could even let you figure out your own story as you play it. However, a game like Stardew Valley will have story elements scattered throughout, and these story elements and its characters can genuinely help push that cozy vibe at times. You'll start out with a bit of a cutscene which explains why you are moving to live on the farm, and then Mayor Lewis and Robin will explain a few things to you. The story isn't a constant thing that you're working through like in a game like Celeste. Again, you can just sort of choose whether or not you want to interact with any of the storylines, but if you do choose to embrace its story, you get to know its characters so much better, which in turn makes the game feel friendlier and more cozy. The main storyline of the game is the completion of the community centre, or I guess the Jojamart option if you hate Pierre. Once you start completing different bundles, the world begins to change around you. You might unlock the minecarts which help you travel around quickly, or the greenhouse which lets you grow crops during the winter. And when you finish everything, the entire community centre is restored. Pierre's is no longer closed on Wednesdays, and some villagers will start to spend time there. But other than the main story, almost every character in the game will have their own storylines, and as you get to know them more, they might become friendlier towards you. For example, a character like Haley or Shane initially seem really cold and downright nasty towards you, but once you start getting a few hearts with them, they start to become much happier and nicer people. And when you start unlocking cutscenes with characters, you get to take a glimpse into their lives and grow closer to them. Everything here just oozes coziness. especially once you really establish yourself as part of the community and make strong connections with the different villagers. A Short Hike story is pretty simple overall, but its characters are what really shine. Everyone that you meet will have this sort of charisma to them that makes them likeable in different ways. Well, again, almost everyone. And it makes exploration so much more rewarding because of this. Whether you're finding somebody's lucky headband, or parkouring, or showing off your rock climbing skills, there is always a unique and interesting character that is written fantastically. All of this just again adds to that friendly and cozy feeling throughout the game, almost as if you always have a trustworthy friend nearby as you make your way through the trail. There are a lot of different aspects that go into making a game feel cozy. Some games will show almost all of them really well, and some games will excel at some things, but not others. There isn't a definitive way to say if a game is or isn't cozy, since cozy is something that we feel, and if a game like Minecraft doesn't quite hit the nail on the head for you, then that's completely fine. For somebody else, it might be the coziest game in the entire world. Games like Animal Crossing and Coffee Talk are great for giving you fleshed out and full gameplay experiences, without including much, if any, danger, stress, or pressure. Little Witch in the Woods and Untitled Goose Game create an amazingly cozy atmosphere with their different art styles and design choices. Old Man's Journey and Fishy's pacing allow for the game to be played at whatever speed you want, letting you do anything you'd like to do, and allowing for you to just relax while playing. Stardew Valley and A Short Hike really shine with their characters and story elements, letting you get immersed in their worlds. Realistically though, most of these games show elements of every factor we've talked about, and are some of my personal favourite cozy games to play through. And even if a game isn't cozy as a whole, there are so many different games with at least a few cozy elements or areas. These areas end up being really important for the game because they allow us to relax after completing a level or finishing a particularly difficult task, and break up the action of a game to give us a chance to reflect, in comfort, on where we've been and what's up next. Cozy games can be a fantastic way to de-stress and relax, especially during the evenings or maybe a rainy day. And so these elements that give a game a cozy feeling can all add up to make for an amazing experience.